It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We are always live as well on the free Odyssey app, and we're back on YouTube at the Team 980. Thanks to Daniel and Tom, our engineers. Flipped to Daisy some cables, Anthony. Some literal wires got crossed.
Love that then.
Yeah,
quick fix.
Yeah, I mean, truth be told, they're working on stuff because we're working on getting better performance out of these computers in here on the back end. And so the test and you gotta be like plug it into the test computer, plug it back in to this computer, and when they plug it back, it got crossed. But then Daniel uncross it and plug it back, and ta-da! Now we're here.
Hey, that's what they get paid to do, man. Solve problems.
Yeah. Yeah. And hilariously, often the first thing they, as any engineer does when you come to them with a problem, it's like, would you unplug it and plug it back in? And this wasn't exactly that, but because I didn't touch it, they plugged it and they unplugged it and plugged it back in just in the other one. And then, yeah. Commenter on YouTube says, now you need better Wi-Fi. It's not Wi-Fi, it's hardwired internet, and we're working on it, which is literally why this problem happened in the first place, because we're working on it. It's been a little glitchy the past. We're trying to fix. We see you, and we're working on it. We're doing our best here at the Team 980. 301-230-0980 is the phone number, 301-230-0980. That's the number to call to get your thoughts in on the Commanders draft on a Vibe Check Tuesday. Anthony, we have empty phone lines at the moment. Ta-da, blank screen. So, one, that means people can call in and they'll be the first in line. Two, it means I get to ask you, how'd you think they did this weekend?
I was surprised that we didn't take an edge, just because this leading up to the draft, all we talked about was how deep this class was at defensive end, and we didn't draft one. So I was more so surprised on that front, but also just looking at, how AP and Lance Newmark, they do business, it just seemed like, they wanted to draft whoever the best player available was. Last year, they took that route, and this year, even in their answers on Saturday and Sunday, they addressed that and said, we took the guy that was highest on our board, and, they're in a position where they don't necessarily need to draft for need. They can draft by best player available. So I'm fine with, their approach. I think, as you just said, they'll have a plan for all the guys they just took. And to be honest, it just seemed like what was consistent amongst all the guys we got, they're like really athletic, they're fast, and they're explosive. So that was like consistent theme amongst all of our draft picks.
No doubt. And I think that you put it really well there when you said, you were surprised, right? Because I guess I am also surprised, but I'm not disappointed.
Yeah.
I'm not like, oh, what are they doing? We're not going to have. Did you see, by the way, the thing that happened to our guys up in Buffalo with Brandon Beane, where they were talking about, them not drafting a receiver right before Beane came on, and then he just like ripped into him as soon as he got on the air?
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
I want to. I've been on their show a bunch. I want to see if I can get one of those guys on later in the week. It's on my to-do list. Remind me for like Thursday. I think Thursday would be ideal to do that. The Jeremy and Joe show. Joe and Jeremy up on WGR in Buffalo. But I don't think that if Adam Peters was listening to us right now, to be clear, Adam, I don't think you made a mistake. It just kind of surprised the board fell the way it did. And I think it's really important to point that out too. Like, some of this is how the board fell. And Connerly being there when they did not expect him to. And they would have needed a Mykel Williams, a Shamar Stewart, someone like that to fall. And I'm not surprised, for all the Stewart versus Ezeraku stuff that we did, like, I'm not surprised that Stewart went and Ezeraku didn't in the first round. I'm just not. Because the more I talked to people and the more I thought about what works at the NFL level, it's guys like Shamar Stewart. Now, there's a long list of guys that don't work out in terms of, the Tyree Wilsons and guys like that who are way overdrafted as physical freak types on the edge. But there's an equally long list of guys that have a ton of production at the college level that are lacking in traits and don't wind up being productive guys in the pros. So it works both ways, and I think the way the board fell with those 5 edges coming off between 121 and 127, or 4 edges coming off between 121 and 127, certainly could have affected it, and that was kind of the end of the edges. After that, there wasn't a ton more guys. Fadil Diggs from Syracuse, someone that some guys liked. He went off the board in the 7th. They could have gotten him, but they chose to go to the running back direction. And that's the other thing, too. I think when you look at the positions, like running back, I think everyone wanted them to take one of those. Corner, everyone wanted to take one of those. Receiver, everyone wanted them to take one of those. Corner and offensive tackle, what are you going to do? Sub out the offensive tackle? I guess. Tackle for edge, and I think everyone's less surprised, but they took the guy they thought was better. And at the end of the day, considering what their definition of better has looked like so far, Anthony, considering they made the NFC Championship game last year, kind of hard to argue with.
I'm not even gonna lie. I was on the phone, so
I literally all you missed was what I just told you when you were off the phone, because I was looking right at you.
Oh,
They made the NFC Championship game.
yeah, we did.
Yeah, so it's hard to argue that they don't know what they're doing.
Oh yeah, nah, I would agree. I would agree.
All right, that's all we needed out of you. All right, back to the phones, 301-230-0980. Let's go to Daryl. Daryl, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Hi, I'm a first-time caller, long-time listener.
Oh, thanks, Daryl. Appreciate that. Welcome to the show.
All right, yeah. They remind me of when Bobby Befford was there. They never picked big-time players. He always picked players that seemed like they were more hungrier from smaller schools. And as I was saying, I think like Brian Robinson, the running back we pick, he runs just as hard as Brian Robinson, but he's a little shiftier. So just in case this year he doesn't work out, we got somebody in place. And when you look at the cornerback, if one of our cornerbacks don't work out this year, that guy look like he can play. If the linebacker retires this year, then not the linebacker, the receiver we got, if Debo acts crazy with a big contract, you need a big contract, this guy probably could step in for Debo. I mean, I just think they picked players that they were ready to. If we lose certain players, we can put these players in place. And I think every last one of them players will be able to contribute this year. I do believe that.
Yeah, Daryl, I appreciate the call, man. Thanks for calling in, and thanks for listening to the show for a long time before you did. I think we get a little out over our skis sometimes by assuming that every draft pick is going to work out. But to Daryl's point, if these guys work out, Trey Amos is the long-term either replacement for Lattimore or a guy who can play outside of Mikey Sanders still, and then some other corner of the future once Lattimore retires, but with Lattimore for whatever number of years. And I'll say this, too, in response to both of those calls. The corner cliff is steep. And when guys are cooked, they sometimes are just like, it's Instapot, bro. It's microwave. Like, they go from prime to done like that. And hopefully that is not the case with Lattimore, because he had good days last year, but that hamstring just never was quite right. And hopefully he can get back to what he was even 2 years ago. Nevertheless, you're never probably getting the prime Marshawn Lattimore, like 2019 Marshawn Lattimore again. But can you get 2022 Marshawn Lattimore? That seems far more on the table. But Amos, certainly a guy that they want in the long term. All their running backs are on one-year deals. And so, yeah, Krosky Merritt is a guy that is a really intriguing runner. Like, watching him run is fun. He's unorthodox in his style. And in a lot of ways, like Jalen Lane, the receiver, he runs more like a running back than Krosky Merritt does. And Krosky Merritt kind of runs like a wide receiver. Like, Anthony, if you think of how a running back runs, you think of like big, stout, wide, like wide base. They're chopping people down. They're low to the ground. They're trying to bowl people over. And you think of like some of these wide receivers that look like they're like salsa dancing while they run. Krosky Merritt runs like that. It's crazy, the balance he has.
It gives like Darren McFadden almost, like short, quick, choppy steps kind of thing where he's explosive, to me anyway. He's
so, like, his acceleration rating on Madden is going to be very high. I don't know. His speed rating, not as high. And actually, here, hold on.
4.45, Craig?
I mean, that's good for like a 92. It's not like he's a 99 speed guy.
Nah, not at all.
Where's his measurables? Yeah, 4.45, 2.59, 20. But he had a 1.50 10-yard split.
Oh, yeah.
Which means you get from nowhere to somewhere quick. His it's kind of funny. His 3-cone was, or his short shuttle was only 4.44, which like isn't that elite. Like, you got guys that run the 4.1s for short shuttle, but his vertical was 41.5 inches.
God dang.
And his broad jump is 10.4. So like really, I actually wonder if he slipped on the short shuttle, because that time doesn't make any sense with any of the other stuff that he does, unless he's got bad footwork, and that's probably not ideal for a running back. But also watch his feet on tape, and you'll be like, that guy's got great feet. So I don't know if he can pass protect at all. I don't know, like, his vision isn't elite, but he just like squeezes holes and finds ways, and he doesn't bounce off guys. Like some dudes are just bowling balls and guys bounce off him. He absorbs contact and just kind of seems to shed it off. It's like, water off his body.
Yeah,
it's wild to watch him run. It is. Again, he's playing in Alabama State, and then he's playing at New Mexico, and he's got one game at Arizona. So it's not like he's playing the world's best defenses here. Going to be different when NFL dudes hit you. But he could definitely, he's a part of this team probably moving forward. And it wouldn't surprise me if he can catch a kickoff if he's their kick returner as well, with Lane being the punt returner, and then maybe he's the other guy back there if they don't want to put Austin Eckler back there again. So I'm excited to see what they can do with this group for sure. And again, I think they have a plan for him. I think that they know what they want to get out of him. And, to say like, oh, Jalen Lane will be able to replace Debo. Debo is one of the best weapon pieces that this league has ever seen. Like, he's so unique. But if you're looking at just this version of Debo, could he be something similar? Yes. If you think that, like, oh, Jalen Lane will be what Debo was in San Francisco, no. But in 2 years, who's the better player, Jalen Lane or Debo Samuel? I would not be surprised at all if it's Jalen Lane. I hope for Debo's sake that it's Debo. I hope that he's got more left in the tank. But his physical style, the way that he's played, there's always a chance, and you got to prepare for those types of things. And we know that clearly, based off the Debo trade and this draft pick, Jalen Lane's and that kind of piece is one that they want in their offense. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980 is the phone number where you call us and give us your take on the Commanders draft on a Vibe Check Tuesday here on the Hoffman Show. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We're streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. Tom Sherwood, WAMU political analyst, joins us coming up at 5 o'clock because he knows more about D.C. City Council than anybody I can think of, and that is where the Commanders' attention focuses next when it comes to their return to D.C. and the RFK Stadium site. So we'll talk to Sherwood about what lies ahead for Josh Harris on the lobbying front, what chances he thinks there are, and he'll give us all the civics lesson on why we have to go through this whole process in the first place coming up at 5 p.m. Right now, though, we continue our Vibe Check Tuesday, 301-230-0980, where you can tell us how you feel about the Commanders draft. Let's go to Gary in Upper Marlboro. Gary, good to hear from you. How are you doing?
Hi, Craig. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for calling, man. What you got on the draft for me?
Overall, I'm pleased with the players that they drafted. I think that the two players, the top players, Amos and the left tackle, I think they're probably immediate starters, and so I think that's good. The other players down the draft, we have to wait and see. But they look like they're going to be contributors, at least one on special teams and a couple on special teams. So overall, I think it was a good draft class. The only concern that I have, and it's probably a concern that a lot of people have, is, there were some defensive ends that were edge rushers that were taken that, the Cowboys took a guy that a lot of people thought had a first-round grade on him. And I understand the whole thing of surrounding Jaden with talent on the offensive line, but that is a glaring weakness that they have on defense in a division that has a lot of good quarterbacks, so they're going to be playing better quarterbacks this year than they did last year. I just wish they would have done something with the defensive end, and it's probably making up for a mistake that they made last year in the draft by not getting a left tackle in the second round. There were a couple that were available, and they didn't take it, so now they're not happy with the left tackle at the end of last season, and they've thrown a lot of bodies at that now. All the picks that they had to give up for Laramie Tunsil, and now this first-round pick. So I hope they're not repeating the same mistake at defensive end that they made last year, where they go out in free agency or go out in the trade market next year and give up picks to get a defensive end. But overall, I think they did a pretty good job with the players that they drafted.
So, Gary, let's pull on that string a little bit because I don't know that that's entirely fair, but I'm willing to hear the argument here. Who did they pass on last year that you would trade for Mike Sainristil still?
Well, no, I'm not talking about Mike Sainristil still. I'm talking about J-Ron Newton.
No.
Didn't they have 3 second-round picks?
They did. Okay, so fine that you would trade for Johnny. That's fine. Pick your player. That you would have rather them taken who than Johnny Newton last year?
Or Sennett. Sennett was a second-round pick too, wasn't he?
Sure, and Sennett's an easy one to pick on right now. We didn't know that at the time, sure, but even so, who is the left tackle? There's one immediately that comes to mind that probably would have been a better use of the pick, but is there anybody that's screaming to you? There's a second-round tackle last year that you were like, oh my God, this would have solved their problems.
The kid. I mean, I don't know if he would have been an All-Pro, but the kid from Baltimore, okay, he was a tackle that was available. And there was a kid from Miami that was available. Now, I don't think he had a good season last year, in all fairness. But it would have been easier for them to address the left tackle in the second round last year with 3 second-round picks than waiting, because the same argument that we're making now, you want to protect your star player, that was the same last year. I mean, you wanted to protect Jaden. So now, because they did not draft a left tackle, they now have given up draft picks for Laramie Tunsil and then used another first-round draft pick for left tackle. So all I'm saying is, if they'd done that last year and were comfortable with the left tackle that they drafted, they would have 2 or 3 more players on their roster right now.
So
and I don't want them to repeat that for the defensive end.
Of course, I don't want them to have to do anything crazy either next year for a pass rusher. But you're talking about Roger Rosengarten, who played right tackle for Baltimore last year, and then Patrick Paul's the player in Miami, and he's the one I was thinking of. The Dolphins really like Patrick Paul, but I don't know that Patrick Paul had a better season than, say, Brandon Coleman at left tackle. They did address left tackle last year, and ultimately they liked the player, I think Coleman, probably more than they liked those other guys, and they clearly liked who they took in the second round over. And that's the other thing this year is, like, you can say you want Ezaraku from Boston College instead of Connerly, and I'll hear that based off of need, but I will also tell you they had, I think, a first-round grade, like as in top 15 level grade on Connerly, and they did not have that clearly on Ezaraku. And I know at least one other team that I talked to, if not multiple teams, that agreed with that Ezaraku is just simply not as good of a player. And so you have to then play the game of, are you willing to take worse football players in a league where turn and turnover is really, really significant for a position of need in one singular season? And the other part of this, Gary, that I think is worth mentioning is we need some acknowledgement of how big the hole is here that Adam Peters dug out of. I don't want to lose track of that. The fact that this roster was arguably the worst in football, or one of the two worst in football with the Patriots going into last year, and then they made the NFC Championship game. Just because they made the NFC Championship game doesn't mean that the lack of star power suddenly disappeared. They just were able to figure out how to get around it schematically and with some of the interim pieces that they had.
I agree. I'm not saying he's it's a terrible roster. I just think that, again, I'm pleased with the draft.
For sure.
But the defensive end thing though is bothering me because I'm hearing, out of Dallas and how everyone is raving about this kid, and I just thought it was a glaring weakness going into the draft that everybody was pretty much in agreement with, and then. I know Washington didn't say that. I know Peters didn't say that. So we can say whatever we want. He's the guy. But it seems like that was a glaring weakness. And, again, with the quarterbacks that we have, I don't care how many corners you have. If you can allow the quarterback 5 and 6 seconds to throw the ball, Patrick Surtain can't keep up with wide receivers under those circumstances. So that's sort of why I was hoping that they will push the envelope. Now, it all goes away if they get Frederickson. Okay, or Hendrickson, whatever the guy is, it all goes away. But I was hoping that they would get a defensive end. But and the last thing I will say is I think with the left tackle, I'm not so sure how long Laramie Tunsil has with Washington. Okay, so this kid can probably come in and step in and take his place. That's a good thing with this because when I'm hearing out of Houston, I got a couple of buddies. They were not at all upset with Laramie Tunsil being traded. Because they think he's slipping. And, so I don't know if that's the case. Hopefully it's not. But at least they have someone that they can slide in there that has first round chops to slide in and take his place if 2 years they want to move on from Laramie Tunsil.
There's definitely a chance. I think the slippage in Tunsil's game is way, way overrated and had to do a lot with the schematic failings of the Houston Texans offensive staff last year, which is why they all got fired. But I do think in the long term, you could be looking at a Tristan Wirfs situation where Connerly eventually, after playing a couple of years at right tackle, flips over to left once someone else leaves. And obviously that someone else would be Tunsil. Because while Tunsil could play for 5 more years, he also could play for 2 more years because that is the nature of being above 30 in the NFL. Gary, appreciate the call as always. Always thoughtful. Really appreciate it. It's Vibe Check Tuesday here on the Hoffman Show. The other thing I'll say quickly about the edge before we get to Tom Sherwood and talk not football, but where they're going to play football starting in 2030, is the hope is that the pass rush gets better in part because the coverage is better. You can do more stuff on the back end. You can confuse the quarterback with better back end play, and that could take a little extra time to let these guys finish. I also think that the freedom of a guy like Kane Medrano potentially to play in some third down packages, maybe frees Frankie Louvu up to be a rusher more. Their blitz packages are really good. You'd hope that Javonte Jean-Baptiste takes a jump in year 2. So there are things that they've done. Dietrich Wise is a good football player. Like, they have addressed the edge. They just don't have like a premier edge rusher. You weren't getting one at 29. You weren't getting one at 61. You weren't getting one anywhere outside of probably the top 5 of most drafts. Maybe the top 15, maybe somewhere in the 20s in a very weird draft. And maybe the Commanders will get lucky like that next year with a pretty quarterback-heavy top of the 2026 draft. But it's just worth mentioning that you are ultimately, like we talked about in free agency, you're at the mercy of the market. And the market did not afford them an opportunity to take an edge. And I'm not going to hold that against them. I'm going to look at what they did as opposed to what they didn't. because there was no obvious point, unless you just are gung-ho on Ezaraku over Connerly, that was the obvious move. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Coming up next, Tom Sherwood on the future of the Commanders' return to D.C. and how they're going to get it through D.C. City Council. It is the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We're streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. Top story today is what happened yesterday. Let's talk about it, shall we? Commanders hoping to get back to RFK.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not my beat.
Joining us live from Capitol Hill, where there will be a counter protest tonight, if you will, an event saying, no RFK Stadium, no football stadium for the Commanders. Tom Sherwood, who is the political analyst for the Politics Hour on WAMU, is back with us. Tom, thanks so much for your time and your expertise. Appreciate it, sir.
Hello, Craig, and hello, everybody.
So, Tom, I'd like to, if we could, start with a bit of a civics lesson. I went to public school, but it wasn't in the District of Columbia. And so the inner workings of the D.C. Council and how it interworks with the mayor's office and then ultimately the federal government, which has a lot of power in D.C. as well, is something that I've become more and more aware of, having lived here and specifically covering this story, not to mention trying to be a good citizen over the last, especially 5 years that I've been an actual district resident versus just being in the area. But it's something that I think we should explain as a starting point so that everyone's on the same page here. Why did ultimately, what are the powers that be here? Who has control over what on a surface level that is relevant to I would say this story, the Commanders trying to build a football stadium on the RFK Stadium site?
And I know you paid attention when you were in school.
I did.
So
I did.
The simplest thing to say is, in Virginia, in Maryland, there are governors, and then there are state legislatures. In the District of Columbia, a place that is ultimately controlled by Congress, there is an elected mayor and an elected D.C. council, which has all the powers of a city council, a county council, and a state legislature rolled all into one. And so the mayor is the executive who runs the city. The D.C. council passes the laws and approves the mayor's budget. And that's where they come in with the football decision about bringing the Commanders back to RFK. The mayor at the big event yesterday, and I have to say I was a little bit of a fanboy when Joe Gibbs walked in, but yesterday the mayor and the NFL announced her plans to bring the team back from Maryland into D.C. at the old RFK site with the new stadium. But the plan has to be approved by the 13-member council. And just make it a little more complicated, currently there are only 12 council members sitting because one of them was thrown off for violating all the council rules. But there are 12 sitting D.C. council members who have full authority to say yes to the new stadium or no.
All right, and they have to get 7 yeses of the now 12.
Yes, they have to have a simple majority vote. 4 of the council members attended the big event yesterday. Mm-hmm. So we can presume, unless something terrible happens and changes their mind, the mayor starts out with 4 out of the 12 votes. He needs 3 more, and they're going to vote by the end of July.
So this then begs the big question that I would love to get an answer from you, Tom, about, which is the Commanders lobbying. Obviously, first they had to lobby Congress so they could unlock the land so that any of this can happen in the first place, and we've been covering that part of the story. I mean, not just for the past couple of months, but we've been covering that story for 10 years because that was the first step that had to happen. Then they seemingly worked with the mayor, who was on their side to begin with. She wants this to happen. But according to Phil Mendelson, the chair of the D.C. City Council, they haven't been consulted basically at all. He had one brief meeting with Josh Harris at some point late last week. Why did the Commanders not work both the mayor's office and engage the mayor's office in helping them, since she's on their side, and start working on D.C. City Council sooner versus having this big press event and having all the council people be like, hey, what about us?
Well, you have to point out that Phil Mendelson, when he was a council member, voted against every major vote on the baseball ballpark. He voted against it. And so there wasn't much reason to consult him on the initial plan. The mayor was working out the details. I know several council members who heard from the team and heard from the mayor's office during this negotiation. But the fact is, the mayor makes this decision for the contract, and then the council follows along and says what it thinks about it and suggests changes or votes it up or down. Mendelson and the mayor don't get along very well. He's constantly criticizing her. There's a big fight now over her budget, which is due in the next day or so. And so they have not gotten along. I can see why the mayor hasn't included him. I think some staff members have been apprised of this, but this is a classic governor, council, legislative battle. The mayor's making a decision. The council now gets to get into the ring now and have its say. And so I don't think it's a big deal that the mayor didn't reach out because, frankly, if the mayor reached out, I would hope I would have gotten the leaked information and I would have reported it. So I'm not too concerned about the bruised egos here. The real question is, will the details of the deal persuade at least 3 and probably 4 or 5 more council members to support it? And what changes will the team agree to make to sweeten the deal for the district? Coming in with a $2.5 billion plan to oversee the building of a stadium and to be a master developer for most of the land around there was a good start. But this is just the opening shots of this negotiation.
Tom Sherwood, WAMU. He is a host and reporter and their political analyst for the Politics Hour on that fine radio station with us here on the Hoffman Show. And so I guess, Tom, the part of the reason you were the first person I thought of to have this conversation with is because you know the normal course of business. Those of us in the sports world are parachuting in every couple of months when something is happening here and trying to make sense of it. This is your world all the time. So you're saying it is normal for the mayor to do something and then it go to the council versus council involvement. And now we have reached the council involvement phase and there will be theoretically changes to this plan, and this is all in the normal order of how things go, hemming and hawing from Phil Mendelson and others aside.
Yes, it's quite normal. And when there is expectation, not confirmed, but expectation that the mayor will propose her 2026 budget on Thursday. And that's for the budget of the city that takes effect in October. And in that budget, you will have the money, I believe, to get this agreement underway. But they need the council's vote by the late July because the council goes in recess in late July until September. So they want the council to say yes or no on this deal by mid-July, certainly late July at the latest. But this is typical legislative sausage making.
And boy,
Don't
is it
ask me
fun.
about the NFL draft. I couldn't explain all the ins and outs, but it's a lot more than someone standing up on the stage saying, we take this player, we take that player. There's all the behind the scenes, 25 people on computer screens and negotiating all that stuff. The same thing happens in the legislative system.
So I saw some polling data that our colleague JP Finley had put out from a group, I believe it's called Heart Research. I'm sure that the team was helping, and the city and the mayor's office was helping with this because it was very, very favorable to them. And they say, oh, if the 80% of the funding is going to come from private sources, aka the Harris Group, do you support the stadium returning to, or the team returning to RFK? And 80% of the people say yes, and then they get to be like, look how supportive everybody is. I think that is not the right question, Tom Sherwood. I think the right question is, can they actually do that? What are the chances that the funding mechanisms, and the other part of that poll question, by the way, was there would be no tax increases, that this could be funded for, there'd be no cuts to services, all these things that are being promised. Realistically, how likely is it that they can do this in the way that they have laid out when you saw the literature that was handed out with some of the funding mechanisms and all of that yesterday at the mayor's event?
We're still, the council members rightly, and members of the media and others are waiting for more details, exactly what this will be. There are parts of it, like selling seats and where that money goes and how the stadium will be financed and what money will pay back the stadium. So if the team puts up money, funds the money to build the stadium, it needs to get its money back in some way. So it will master develop some of the land there with hotels and different things, and they will get some of that money there to help pay off the bonds that they'll float to build the stadium. It gets quite complicated. It's not a cut and dry deal like a house mortgage. And so a lot of the details still have to be explained in maybe hearings at the council going forward. So, but it's not an unusual deal. It's called tax increment financing in some ways, where you'll build a stadium and the commercial projects that go around it, hotels, retail, and housing, and some of the money earned from those advanced things being built will help pay off the bonds.
So if
this is the biggest private industry deal in the history of the city, but it involves a lot of city money over 6 years.
Right, and
it's not you just write one check at the start. This money will be spent over a long period of time. The mayor has said she can do it. And I should point out, every mayor since Tony Williams in 1999 has said he or she wants the team back into the district. And Mayor Bowser is, of course, the first mayor to make that happen. And so it's just a huge deal. But all of the money involved, it's a massive development. There are accountants out the wazoo and lawyers involved with this. And we need to have a full explanation of it. I'm a district citizen. I've said on my radio show, I'm for the team coming back to town. But the deal has to be good for the district citizens. It can't just be a giveaway to the NFL. And one of the things I don't like is that the NFL at this point, the Josh Harris group, is headquartered in College Park. And I think if they're going to be a real partner with the city, they not only have to play in the District of Columbia, they have to bring their business into the District of Columbia and not treat the district as a stage or a tourist thing where they come in only on Sundays or special events. They need to be a real partner with the city. So again, the financing, the detailed financing needs to be fully explained to the council members and to the public.
So as Tom
We
Sherwood,
just got the first taste yesterday.
Yeah, as Tom Sherwood, WAMU, is with us. I think that's interesting because Josh has made clear, like, he likes the fact that now the practice facility is in Virginia. He hopes the stadium is in D.C. And then that they have their business operations in Maryland because he likes being in all of the DMV and supporting all three jurisdictions. But there was also some reporting I saw, Tom, that he has been involved in doing some non-stadium work within the city, that he's actually been trying to be a good corporate citizen, being involved beyond this. Would that be enough for you to say, like, hey, maybe we won't move our offices, but maybe we move some of it? Well, there obviously is going to be stadium staff that works year round in the city if the stadium is here. And if you are involved in the city on a more regular basis, then that would be good enough to satisfy, I guess, you personally in that view that you just expressed with us?
I think it's not a good idea where you're asking the district citizens and government to put up well over $1 billion into your project, that you treat us like an absentee landlord, where you come into town when it's convenient, but that you basically are an organization in Maryland where any corporate taxes that you pay go to Annapolis instead of the district. And then, they've got this Ashburn facility for a long time. That's 44 acres. I think there's like 4 outdoor practice fields and an indoor practice field. And there's some suggestion that some of that could come to the District of Columbia. And I don't think many people know this. I just learned it myself this week, that the team ownership has filed some paperwork in Virginia and in Loudoun County to ultimately turn that practice facility of 44 acres into data centers.
Yep.
That the whole area around Loudoun County has those massive warehouse-style data centers, and they've already filed some notice that in some time in the future they want to put data centers on their property. So that could suggest that in the future they may move some of that activity to the RFK site. But I still think if you want to be the nation's capital team, your company ought to be here. I don't want to get too far off on that, because the main thing we should, as you talk about, is will the council come together and have enough votes? A lot of there were like 6 to 10 major votes on the ballpark and bringing the baseball team here. And of those 6 to 10 votes, some of them, or most all of them, were 7 to 6, the 13 council members. 7 to 6. If one person had changed his or her mind, we wouldn't have the Nats celebrating their 20th year here.
So what do we think the likelihood is that this ultimately happens? Because that's where the rubber meets the road. Now we go full punditry here. How do we think that this vote breaks down, and do the Commanders ultimately get what they want, or some version of it? But the main headline being Commanders return to RFK finalized.
I would say using my online FanDuel account, if I were betting $100, I would bet that it will come to the city, that they will reach agreement. I think there will be some concessions from the team and from the mayor to maybe bring some of the wavering council members, because, it often happens when some big deal happens, the legislators in any state legislature or Congress, they want to put their thumbprint or their footprint on something so they can say, we made the deal better. And I voted for it because I did X or I did Y to make the deal better. So again, we're at the beginning. We're at square one of this, of the negotiations to get the council to approve it. Some of the council members will say, can you do this? Can you do that? Zachary Parker, who's a Ward 5 council member in Northeast Washington, has already mentioned what I just said, that he wants the team to actually physically, legally be in the District of Columbia and not be in College Park. If that's enough for him, I don't know. But that's the kind of stuff that's going to be going on. But my $100 in FanDuel, if there were a bet there, I would bet that it's going to get done, but we're going to see some bumps in the road before we get there. And I think we'll see some significant changes to sweeten the deal to bring them along.
Do you think that those and you're the perfect person to ask, Tom, because you might be the one who folks tell things to. Do you think we'll learn some of those things along the way, or are we going to wake up one day in July and this vote's going to happen and then we'll learn about it afterwards?
I think we'll find out. They have kept a lot of this mostly secret to Mark Seagraves from Channel 4 broke the story last week. They initially were going to make this big announcement last Wednesday, but I'm not sure of all the reasons. I think I know the reasons, but I'm not sure I can say. But they postponed it last Wednesday till Monday. So they did that. But I just think we're going to see a lot of things happen, and some of them will be made public. Again, I'm using the baseball ballpark because that was significant. It was a tense battle. Vincent Gray, who was a council member then in Ward 7, he was on the fence. Well, I'm going to do this. What's in it for me? What's in it for my constituents? And the team promised that if they came to the district, they would open up a baseball academy in Ward 7. And they have that academy. It's been there for, I don't know how many years, but, hundreds of young people have gone through the baseball academy in Ward 7. And that was one of the things that Vince Gray required before he would vote for them.
Interesting. So it's
I don't know if you have a contract, but you negotiate on direct money, you negotiate on side benefits and things like that. That's what's going to happen with the legislature.
More legislative sausage to be made. Tom, always appreciate your perspective, your insight, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you here over the next couple months as we try to learn more about this and see if this thing does indeed get across the finish line and you get your money back from FanDuel, so to speak.
Okay, I am going. You mentioned at the start of this. I am up here on Capitol Hill at the Hill Center, which is at 9th in Pennsylvania. There is a gathering of people who are opposed to this stadium, saying, like Charles Allen, the council member, has said, and Brianne Nadeau, the council member, who have said, there's better things to do with that land. We can build housing and retail, something like the wharf that was built in other places. We don't need a stadium. These are the people who are going to campaign against it, and we'll have more news on that tomorrow.
Indeed. And
Have a good night.
Yep. Thanks so much, Tom. Really appreciate it. Tom Sherwood with us here on the Hoffman Show. And as I've said before, I don't think this land gets unlocked into this stage right now if the Commanders are not involved. And Josh Harris can say all he wants, like, we think it's the right thing for the district. We want to be good citizens. And if, the city votes that we don't get to use the land even though we helped unlock it, then the city is the city. And, like, morally, that is the correct stance. If I was Josh Harris and I put in the kind of effort and paid the kind of money to the lobbyists and the strategists and all the things to get that land unlocked, and then I didn't get to do it, I would be livid. So I'm very curious to see how that, hey, now that we have the land, we can do something else without a stadium with it argument actually goes. But that's the battle of the next 3 months. We'll be following it here on the Hoffman Show. When we get back, though, I wanted to do this basically since Thursday's first round. We're going to run through the NFL draft, every single team. I'm going to give you one thought on every single first-round pick. That is next on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the team at 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We're streaming live on YouTube too at the team 980. The NFL draft's in the books, Sant. It was a lead up. We were talking about it. We said it was going to happen. And it happened. Like that, it's over. Now all of a sudden we're in the post-draft wilderness. Whatever are we going to do?
Talk about the draft some more.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. In fact, I would like to go through every single pick of the first round, but that's probably going to take a while. So we got to keep it short. And so, Anthony, if there's music, it must mean we're moving. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm happy to present to you here on the Hoffman Show one thought about every single pick of the first round. How do you think this is going to go, Anthony?
I think it's going to go good.
All right. Well, here we go. We're about to find out. Ladies and gentlemen, one thought on every single first-round draft pick. Cam Ward, number 1 overall to the Tennessee Titans, quarterback out of Miami. He was by far the best quarterback on the board. That was a team that needed quarterback. Duh, is my thought on Cam Ward. The second overall pick wound up being Travis Hunter to the Jacksonville Jaguars in the trade with the Cleveland Browns. I like this trade for both teams. I think this is a real chance to find out, hey, Trevor Lawrence, if we give you a bona fide weapon at wide receiver to go with the other bona fide weapon that we got you last year in Brian Thomas Jr., and you're still not very good with this quarterback savior offensive coach in Liam Cohen, then we know that the problem might just be you. And so I like making that equation. I like figuring that out. And I think this is a bold move for Jacksonville at the right time for them. And let's see how it goes. Number 3, Abdul Carter. He's the best player on the board. Good job, Giants. We'll get back to you later. Number 4, Will Campbell. Look, Will Campbell from a culture standpoint is about as good of a player as you can ask for in this draft. I think it's kind of weird that he was like, I will die trying to protect Drake May. It's also exactly what I want for my offensive lineman as he's on stage in the moment of his life. I hope Will Campbell gets a new stylist, but I love the pick for the New England Patriots. Number 5, Mason Graham. Look, the Browns wanted to get a disruptor inside to pair with Myles Garrett. I actually like them taking a bunch of swings or having the ability to take swings, trading back. I don't know if this is exactly the player I would have gone for here, but I also get why they did it. I don't think it's a bad choice. And the overall trade is something that I really like by Cleveland because it sets them up to have multiple first-rounders next year to be able to move. And they also might have the first pick in the draft naturally because they might be really bad. Number 6, Ashton Genty to the Raiders. This is a Pete Carroll kind of pick. We're going to play defense. We're going to run the football. And now they're going to be able to run the football. Obviously, they've addressed the offensive line in other ways. They still need to continue to address it in the years to come. But you have now taken whatever you want to do offensively and put a floor underneath it because you are going to be able to run the football effectively if Ashton Genty is the dude that we all think he is. Obviously, they addressed quarterback already this offseason with Geno Smith. They did some other fun stuff offensively. They put together a very varied group of offensive skill players in this draft. Genty, Jack Besh, etc. But I think that this is kind of the obvious pick. He's the best player on the board. There may be no more obvious pick in the first round than what the Jets did at 7, taking Armand Membu, right tackle, out of Missouri. Everyone thought, okay, he might be the best prospect tackle in the draft, but he's never played left before. Hope he can do it, unless you're the Jets and you took Olu Fashanu last year, and now you have your bookend tackles for the future. It sets up that either Justin Fields doesn't have a lot of excuses. I mean, obviously, look, Fashanu's still young, and Membu's about to be a rookie, so we'll see how it goes this year. But in the long term, whoever your quarterback solution is, you got your bookend tackles. Like, we're going to give you a position to come in and succeed. And whether that's at near the top of the first round next year or in the year after, they do a free agency deal, they find someone later that works, whatever it is, they're investing in that offensive line, which is exactly how the Detroit Lions were built, which is where Aaron Glenn, their new head coach, comes from. Tet McMillan, number 8 overall to the Carolina Panthers. Low-key really like this pick. I know that everyone's like, oh my God, you got to throw resources at the defense. You got to throw resources at the defense. They have a rookie quarterback, or not a rookie quarterback, a guy who will now be a third-year quarterback in Bryce Young, who looked really good at the end of last year. Like, really, really good. Like, could be a top 10 guy good by the end of last year. Now, it was a very, very small sample size. But when he could just let that thing rip, Bryce Young showed some stuff. And Tet McMillan is a big target who you can let it rip to. They obviously needed to go defense in other places. They were the worst defense in the league last year. But they need weapons as well. And I like that pick as long as you like the player in Tet McMillan. Talk about an identity piece. I think the New Orleans Saints, they're trying to build an identity with Kelvin Banks Jr. at 9. And that identity is we're going to build through the trenches. And that is the way good football teams are built. The Saints are a year away from, probably being able to be anything close to what they want to be. But again, if you're not going to be good now, you might as well build from the inside out. And that's where I think, a team like the Jets is like, hey, I don't know how good we're going to be right now, but we're going to put a floor underneath us, and we're going to be able to evaluate the skill positions because our offensive line's not going to be bad. Same thing in New Orleans with that 9th pick. 10, Colston Loveland to the Bears. Love this pick. He is very similar to a guy like Sam Laporta, who Ben Johnson had in Detroit. He is arguably the best pass catcher in this entire draft. Some people liked him better than not only the other tight end that went, Tyler Warren, but then Tet McMillan, Matthew Golden, and all the receivers. This dude is a really, really special route runner, and giving Caleb Williams that kind of threat, not just as a quick outlet, but as a guy who can get some vertical stretch down the field as a tight end. Any team that drafted Colston Loveland, I'd probably been like, great pick. So the fact that it's Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears, that's a good pick. Mykel Williams. Mykel Williams is one of the most interesting players to me in this entire draft. He goes to San Francisco. I love the fit. He is a violent player who is young. He is still not even 21 years old. He played most of last season, basically all of last season with an ankle injury, so he wasn't quite as explosive as he was the year before, not quite as productive. He started to get better at the end of the year because his ankle started to feel better. I think this could be not the steal of the draft, but a steal of this draft, where this is a player that, had he been healthy, might have gone, he still went 11th, but he could have gone even higher. And I think he fits from a play style standpoint. That Georgia dog mentality is exactly what the San Francisco 49ers have been, and they now need to change over the dudes that are implementing it, and I think Mykel Williams is a good pick for that. Tyler Booker to the Cowboys. I hate how much I love this pick. And it's probably because how can you not love Tyler Booker? He's an excellent pass blocker. In the run game, if you ask him to do the right stuff, he'll be fine. If you ask him to do the wrong stuff, he's going to be lost. Not the world's greatest athlete, but an unbelievable competitor, an unbelievable locker room guy. He is everything of the best of what the Cowboys have been when they've drafted well. Think back to Zach Martin and Travis Frederick and like that O-line in the early 2010s. They're building something on the O-line in Dallas, which is, again, annoying. It's okay. Jerry Jones will mess it up when they all have to get their second contracts in the dumbest possible way. But, man, their draft unit is really good, led by Will McClay. Their senior vice president of player personnel, or whatever the hell his title is these days. De facto general manager on draft day. Kenneth Grant. There's no team that probably needed an interior defensive lineman like the Miami Dolphins. They took the best one they thought on the board. Grant's probably a bit of an overdraft here, but he's a big old hog molly, and they needed a big old hog molly. There's your thought on it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. Your thought on the Dolphins. Tyler Warren at 14 to the Colts. I got two more, then we'll take a break because then we'll be halfway through the first round. Tyler Warren to the Colts at 14. Outside of the Jets, the most duh pick here in the first round. Duh. They needed a tight end. They couldn't believe that he fell. I think he fits what they want. I will say with Warren, he's not quite the blocker that some people think he is, like because of his play style. Like he's big, he's physical, but he doesn't always stick the landing. He's going to have to get better at that at the NFL level, and he's got some good guys to learn from, obviously, with some of the O-linemen that they have and their O-line program there in Indianapolis. But as a weapon for whatever quarterback, and frankly, as a potential like wildcat quarterback design guy in an offense that might need to scheme some stuff up because their quarterback play is not going to be very high level, Tyler Warren's a good pick. And then Jalen Walker, 15 to Atlanta. This is an excellent pick by the Atlanta Falcons. They needed an edge rusher. They got a really explosive athlete who is got some production, might be able to play a little bit of off ball, and at the very least can like line up and be comfortable in the middle of the field as a blitzer. This is a great pick. They addressed a need, and they did it with probably the best guy on the board. And then last but not least, 16, by the way, we'll get back to the Falcons later. 16, Walter Nolan at Ole Miss, or out of Ole Miss to Arizona. They wanted their penetrating 3 technique to be like Jalen Carter was in the Jonathan Gannon defense. They got it. Dude's limited in some other ways, but he's a good penetrator. He's a disruptive player. I don't know how straight his head is screwed on by some of the reports on that side of it, but I think they probably have high faith with some of the guys they've got, especially in his room, that if you go play next to Calais Campbell will take your head and fix any loose screws and make sure it's on straight. So they might very well get the best out of Walter Nolan, and the best out of Walter Nolan could be a really, really good football player. All right, pick 17 through 32. Next, one thought on every NFL draft first rounder coming up on the Hoffman Show. the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We are always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We will let you hear from Adam Peters, Lance Newmark on the Commanders draft coming up at 6 o'clock, pick 6 style. 6:30, we're talking a little NBA playoffs, including a weird game between the Warriors and the Rockets last night. But we are going through every single team in the NFL draft and giving you our thoughts on their first-round picks. So let's pick it up with pick 17. Pick number 17 in the 2025 NFL Draft belonged to the Cincinnati Bengals, and they took Shamar Stewart, defensive end, out of Texas A&M. I told you he wouldn't get out of the 20s, and I was right, because he is a freakish athlete who's now, presuming that they don't trade Trey Hendrickson, going to get to learn from Trey Hendrickson on some of the finer points of pass rushing. And this is a team that needs to add more pop on the defensive side, and there is no better ball of clay in this entire draft, arguably, than Shamar Stewart. So I like the pick for Cincinnati. Gray Zabel, this is the correct pick for the Seattle Seahawks at 18. They have been neglecting the interior of their offensive line forever. And they finally were just like, all right, fine, we get it. We'll take a guy that can play either guard spot or maybe even play center for us. So they'll figure out where his ultimate long-term home is, but I guarantee you that Gray Zabel is probably going to be a good football player for a long time. Emeka Egbuka. This is one of the most confusing picks in the draft for me because I like Emeka Egbuka. I typically really trust the Bucs in what they do in the draft. And there's almost no team that Emeka Egbuka could have been drafted by where I've been like, what are you doing? But Bucs, you drafted Jalen McMillan last year. You just re-signed Chris Godwin. Mike Evans is still Mike Evans. You're bringing him back. Why are you spending your first-round pick on a receiver? Is it probably going to be your wide receiver 4 this year? That doesn't seem like a needle mover for a team that was in the playoffs last year and is trying to continue to do that and is with Baker Mayfield the next couple of years. That doesn't make any sense. So I don't really love that. I think there's other players that I would have said like, oh, that makes a lot more sense that we're still on the board. Guys, could have gone secondary with a guy like Malachi Starks. They obviously could have gone Jahad Campbell and gotten an edge rusher, but also a off-ball linebacker type, which they've done in the past and had some success with. So there are definitely guys that I think would have made more sense, but I'm also only going to be so mad at one of the most solid football players' safest picks in the draft with Emeka Egbuka. Zade Barron, the cornerback out of Texas to the Broncos. That defense is nasty, and they just added another weapon to it. I don't know whether he's going to play inside or outside. I don't really care. Like they'll figure out how to use him opposite of Patrick Surtain or in conjunction with Patrick Surtain. I think they also lets them do some funkier stuff on defense with him as a blitzer. So he's just a good football player that has some versatility, and maybe he can play some safety. But he might start at outside corner opposite, Pat Surtain, and he's probably okay there. Also, incredible story. I know it's supposed to be one thought, but two thoughts here because Jahdae Barron earned it. Barron asked to be put. Sean Payton told this story in the post-draft presser. He goes, I've never had this happen before. He got asked to be put on speakerphone, and he thanked every single person, not individually, obviously, but the collective group in the Broncos room to say, hey, I know how many people it took to make this happen, all the scouts, everybody, and I just want to thank you all for selecting me. Pretty cool from Jahdae Barron, pretty classy, and tells you what kind of dude the young man is that the Denver Broncos just drafted. Derek Harmon, 21 overall to Pittsburgh. Of course they drafted a guy who's gotten comparisons to Casey Hayward to play with and then ultimately replace Casey Hayward. This is a guy that, in a lot of boards, is a top 20 pick. Very, very Steelers pick. They're just getting better on the trenches, which is how they keep the floor underneath them. Now, if only they could ever figure out the quarterback, maybe their ceiling wouldn't be 2 feet off the floor. Omarion Hampton, do everything back in an offense that asks their backs to do everything. Seems like a good pick. Guy who's a good runner for a team that runs the football a lot. There are certain teams where taking a running back in the first round is probably dumb. The amount of running the football the Los Angeles Chargers do, they are not one of them. Like the pick a lot. Matthew Golden to Green Bay at 23. I like the player. I just am. How many receivers are you going to have that are under 25 years old, Green Bay Packers? And I realize the part of the reason you have all of them is none of them have quite hit the way that you want. And maybe he's a good compliment to Jaden Reed. And if he turns into a bona fide number one and all these other guys that have it turn into your 2, your 3, your 4, like, okay, that can definitely work out. I just think I like Matthew Golden better as a 2. And there's probably other needs that they had, from edge to some of the offensive linemen that are getting older. Like, there's other things they could have addressed in Green Bay. Donovan Jackson, 24 overall to the Vikings. Totally depends on how much you like Donovan Jackson. I like him fine. I think he's got some guard and tackle flexibility. I think that's probably good for them. They'll figure out where his best usage is. If the skill set fits with what Kevin O'Connell wants to do, good pick. If it doesn't, kind of an overdraft. But I will also say this for the Vikings. They only had 4 picks going into this. So if they like Donovan Jackson a lot, they can't worry about, oh, well, we could get him later, or we'll try to trade up and get him later. They had to take him now, so I kind of give them a pass on that. Speaking of trades, let's talk about picks 25 and 26. I promise it's just one thought, so I'm going to have to keep it concise. But Jackson Dart is a perfectly fine guy to take at the end of the first round, to take a chance on. I like the fit with Brian Dable. I hate owners that allow GMs and coaches that are on the hot seat to trade future resources for specifically a quarterback, because if you fire Dable after the year and you drafted Jackson Dart because you like to fit with Brian Dable, you're probably hiring a coach that's the exact opposite of Brian Dable. It is organizational malpractice, and teams do it every year. Just fire the coach. And I don't say that flippantly. I don't think Brian Dable's a bad football coach. But you can't be like, oh, we'll let you trade back into the first round to take the quarterback to save your job, because a rookie quarterback is very unlikely to save someone's job. Maybe this will be the time. Maybe this will work out. But I don't hate it as much as I hate what the Falcons did. I said all those nice things about the Falcons at 15, and then they went and traded next year's first-round pick for a guy that a bunch of teams didn't have on their board. I don't think James Pierce was going in the first round. Why did you trade up to 26 to get him? Especially at a position where you already drafted a guy. Why are you doubling up? I know you desperately need edge rusher. You'd be like, oh, well, now they only have to bat 500. Okay, well, then you wasted a first-round pick. You could argue you wasted 2, because you traded next year's first, and then one of these guys isn't going to work out on the you only have to go 1 for 2 equation. And even if they both work out, now you have to pay 2 dudes at one of the most expensive positions in the entire sport at the same damn time. At least a 1-year stagger gives you some hope. Falcons. Why do you consistently Falcon? I don't get it. 27, Malachi Starks to the Ravens. Of course Malachi Starks fell to the Ravens. He was the Kyle Hamilton of this draft. Of course, Malachi Starks fell to the Ravens. Tyreek Williams, I'm not going to doubt Brad Holmes and the Lions front office. They seem to know what they're doing. They seem to know what they like. Probably not a player that was on my first-round radar, but what am I going to say? They've been awesome at drafting. Josh Connerly, you've gotten plenty of thoughts on him. Maxwell Hairston, here's what I'll say about Maxwell Hairston. If he works out and he's the guy that he seemed to be in the green room where he's glad, he's dapping everybody up, showing a ton of support, then this could definitely work out. He's a zone corner for a team that plays a ton of zone. I am really uncomfortable with Brandon Beane basically asking for it, because Maxwell Hairston had some off the field stuff, and Brandon Beane went so over the top and being like, we are not concerned, he's the best guy, like all this kind of stuff. Have a little humility. That way, if God forbid something does happen, again, in the same vote, the stuff that's alleged to have already happened, you don't look like the world's biggest a-hole. It's okay to have you say we were comfortable with it, and we'll continue to work to make sure that Maxwell's aware of his surrounding, whatever you want to do it. But to be like, he's the best, seems like you're just asking for it to step on a rake. Jahad Campbell, Eagles. Of course, Jahad Campbell fell to the Eagles. A guy that you're not really sure what position he plays. You know he's a really great athlete. He's a little banged up. And all of a sudden, the Eagles are at 31, and they get a top 15 player in the class. Them and the Ravens. Why? And then Josh Simmons. If Josh Simmons' knee is good, this is a steal for the Kansas City Chiefs at 32. If his knee is not good, or there's some off-the-field stuff that comes out, or that acts up and bubbles up, the Chiefs will have whiffed on tackle for the 4th straight year. That's all 32 teams. We did it in less than 30 minutes. One pick, or one thought on each of the 32 first-round picks. When we get back here on the Hoffman Show, we get back to the Commanders' first-round pick. You will hear about Josh Connerly from Adam Peters and Lance Newmark, as well as the other 4 players they drafted to be Connerly's teammate in the 2025 NFL Draft. That's all coming up on the Hoffman Show. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. Coming up at 6:30, we'll get into some of the NBA action from last night, preview tonight's slate. But right now, we continue talking about the NFL draft and what the Commanders did in it with a pick six at, oh, look at the time, at 6.
6 biggest Commander storylines.
It is caught!
Delivered at 6 o'clock sharp. It's the Pick 6 at 6.
We set out to find a leader, someone who could take this franchise to the next level and build an elite team that consistently competes for championships.
All right, let's get to it. Our Pick 6 at 6, where we give you some of the best sound of, in this case, the weekend. Adam Peters talked on Thursday and Friday, and then Lance Newmark, the assistant GM, talked on Saturday. And so we start with Peters, who was asked after the Trey Amos pick how he's feeling after those first two, and then you'll hear from Newmark about how he felt after day 3.
Yeah, you said it. I think, yeah, if you had asked me this a couple days ago, if we would have got these 2 players, you know, one, and it's debatable, and I mean, I'm sure people would disagree with me, but I didn't think Connerly was going to be there when we picked, and I certainly didn't think Amos was going to be there when we picked. So we feel like we got two players that were first-round quality. So we're thrilled, and I think if the board fell to us.
Which is kind of funny because I think a lot of fans look at the board not falling their way because there was no edges available or none of the edges that they wanted available. But they got players that they had way higher grades on than when they picked in those first 2 rounds. And it sounds like that's also how Lance Newmark and the staff felt about the day 3 picks as well.
Very excited about it. You know, it might not be huge volume, but really excited about what was available for us at each pick. And we stayed true to our board and really stayed disciplined. We came into it with the mindset that we could do that, you know, with what we had done in free agency and with what we had done with our roster to get to, you know, the mid-70s numbers-wise and not having glaring holes everywhere. Like, we felt like we could go into this with, hey, this guy is the best player. He makes the most sense. We're not, you know, tied to need. We're not tied to we have to have this. And it's a great feeling going through 3 days with that mindset and being able to, hey, best player on the board, you know, makes sense. Sometimes it was need and or, you know, perceived need or whatever, but we were able to do what we felt was right every time without really being forced to do something just positionally.
And that's the thing about how they treated the pre-draft, and we talked about that quite a bit, right? That they did enough in free agency that there was no, we have to do this right now. They put a floor underneath them and then said, wherever we can increase our ceiling, we'll increase our ceiling. And I know that some fans disagree with that, especially on the edge, that they have not done enough, and maybe they'll still sign another vet. There'll be cuts that come after the draft and throughout the spring. And then obviously there are guys like Zadarius Smith that are already available right now. But if they go to into game 1 next year with this group of edges, they don't have the worst edge group in the league. They have guys who have started a lot of football games and that are fine. They're not good. They're probably bottom half of the league, but you're not going to have a strength at every position. And, you know, they'll look for opportunities in the trade market and or next off season to continue to build out that room in what will be year 3 of their build, which is, I think, when we expected them to hit their stride. And again, they did make the NFC Championship game last year. Number 2 in our pick 6 at 6. This was a way that they perhaps could have done more in the draft. Trade back. I don't know that you want to do it if you think as highly as they did of Josh Connerly or certainly of Trey Amos. Those guys are on your board as high as they were, and you're on the clock. You just don't even really answer the phone. You just run to the table and get the card in. But was trading back something that they thought about doing? Here's Adam Peters on Friday.
Yeah, we got some calls, and it's a similar situation where we decided if Amos was there, we were going to stay and pick. And he was there with another player that we would have stayed and picked at. And if those guys were gone, then we would have traded back, which we had some options to do that. But with him being there, we felt it was really easy to do.
And that's the thing is, if your whole goal in trading back is to get players the quality of Trey Amos, then why would you trade back? Like, of course, there are lottery tickets, and I think you can always make that argument that just keep trading back. And I know people do that in mock drafts, but eventually you look back and you're like, dang, that guy that we passed on that we had really highly rated, we kind of need him. Like, the hope is to get a starting caliber corner. There's one sitting for you. They need one. And so take Trey Amos. And again, I know, fans don't necessarily feel the same way about Connerly, but that's how they felt about Connerly, and they're pretty good at evaluating guys. And so if that is how they feel about Josh Connerly, they did that. That's why Adam said again, because that's how they felt on Thursday. And now I also really want to know who the other player is. I need to go look at the early third rounders and see who I think the other player that they would have loved to take at 61. But Amos, need, fit, best player available, like 3 for 3 at that point. You just run that card in and do what you got to do.
Number 3.
All right, number 3 in our pick 6 at 6. The Commanders did not, as has been discussed ad nauseum, draft an edge in this class. So, why? It's a fair question to ask. Here's Adam Peters on Friday night discussing it.
Yeah, I think it just comes to he was the highest guy on our board. So there was some edge rushers that we liked that got picked, and the next edge rushers on the board were
I guess lower than Trey Amos. I don't know, Anthony. You clearly didn't cut that sound because you would never cut off the ends.
No, I cut all of these actually.
What's happening to the ends?
Maybe it's when it gets put up on your computer, because on my computer they play it in full. I don't know. You might have a different Audition.
I'm not using Audition.
Maybe that's why.
Maybe. I don't know why whatever I'm using is cutting off the end of Adam Peters, but we deserve to hear the whole thing. We also deserve to hear from Lance Newmark. Of course, that was just on Friday specific to Amos, but here is Newmark on Saturday after the full draft, and still no edges were taken.
Well, I feel like we like what we have in that room. I think we're always looking to add if we can. If the right opportunity presents itself, I don't think we would have not added it. There was never a situation where we're not going to add that. Every time we got to where we were picking, it just made these players made the most sense for us. We weren't going to address edge at any point. There was never any conversations of that, of that mindset. It was these players made the most sense for us. And like I said, we like that room and we like what we have there. Certainly not closed. We have a lot of time between now and the season, so there's other opportunities to potentially add there. But these particular picks, we did what we thought was best for us.
And sometimes it's as simple as that. Take the best player available. We did. Not that one. The guys they took, Jalen Lane was apparently the number 1 player on their board when the 4th round opened on Saturday. So all of the edges that went before him, I don't know they would have taken any of them over Lane. They clearly like Bill, the running back, Krosky Merritt. And then they also, Cam Medrano's a real intriguing dude. And I haven't said this out loud yet, but I've had this thought a couple times and almost said it in talking about Medrano. And Logan and I guess, did touch on this a little bit. He brought it up on Take Command. There are some Fred Warner vibes with Cam Medrano. Now, is he going to be Fred Warner? Probably not. Fred Warner's been one of the best 3 linebackers of the last decade in the NFL, along with Bobby Wagner and somebody else that I'm leaving room for. Let's say Roquan Smith, especially the way Roquan's developed the last 2 years in Baltimore. Okay, the chances that Kane Medrano is going to be that, not very good. But his movement skills and his ability to cover are rare attributes to even have the ability, the physical abilities to do what he might be able to do. So if he can do that, Medrano in the 5th, man. And also, he might be able to line up on the edge and play some edge himself because he did some of that in college, and he's crazy athletic, and being a crazy athlete at that position has its advantages. Now, as a 220-pound guy, he's not going to do that a ton, but as a blitzer and the ability to come from some different spots or just line up on the edge and win with speed, he might have that in him. So probably worth mentioning that as well for Medrano, who I feel like hasn't been as talked about as some of the other draft picks, the 5th rounder or the 6th rounder, whatever he was, linebacker out of UCLA. More from Newmark and more from Peters when we get back. But first, the latest on the world, or from the world of women's sports. It's presented to you by Wawa. Chicken how you wanna at Wawa with customizable roasted or crispy chicken sandwiches. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We're streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. Pick 6 at 6 continues now in the back half. The NFL draft is over. So now what for these rookies?
Number 4.
You get drafted, then you got to go fit in. You got to get to work, and so do your coaches, trying to figure out what they are going to do with you. This is definitely, on some level, more of a coach's question than an executive question, but you also want to make sure that, the executives had a vision with the coaches for when they draft a player. So how does Trey Amos fit with Mike Sainristil and Marshawn Lattimore? Here is Adam Peters on that from Friday's press conference.
Looks like a lot of really good guys competing, and Jay Jones and all the rest of the guys we have back there. So, that kind of like we said yesterday with Josh, really the same thing. It's just that's who we are. We compete, and it's all about competition in this program.
I think it's going to be interesting because Amos is going to be an outside guy. And then what do you do with Sainristil? Do you continue to cross-train him and say, hey, we don't know how quickly Amos is going to be available, so we need you to play outside because Jonathan Jones is going to play inside, and then Marshawn Lattimore on the other side? That's definitely a question. Or do you just say Sainristil starting inside and we'll live with Jones on the outside until Amos is ready? Or can Amos be ready fairly quickly? Like, we're going to find out, but as Peters was asked on Friday about his adjustment, this is what he had to say.
Yeah, well, he's shown that that's the other thing about kind of a cool thing about college football now. That you don't totally love everything, and I don't want to get into a longer conversation about the portal and everything, but it shows you that guys can transition into different programs and be successful. And so he's proven that twice now. And so I think we all have so much confidence in our coaches and in our secondary coaches, especially in how they can develop guys and how they can coach guys and how they can connect with our players. So I have a ton of confidence, and I know we all do, that he's going to transition really well here.
So we'll see starting a rookie mini camp next weekend, and then once you get into the offseason program and everybody's back where Amos starts, my guess is in the spring he's going to start way down the depth chart and have to work his way up because that's how they do things here. I mean, Jaden Daniels started second last year. He was the second overall pick behind Marcus Mariota. Like, we'll see where this goes, but I think before long, Trey Amos will find his way working in with the ones in training camp, and then we'll see ultimately in September where that lands. As for the rest of the rookies, Lance Newmark, do you envision them getting on the field this year? How many of them? What roles? Here's Lance Newmark.
It's really hard to predict that. I think we have hopes that all of them can impact our team this year. The one thing I think we're really confident in is they'll be able to come in here and compete. And I think we told them all that, is that when we draft you and when you come here, you're going to have a chance to compete. And whatever you earn, you earn. But that's the one certainty is they'll be. But I think we have hopes that they'll all have a role and they'll all compete to have an impact on our team in 2025 and beyond.
2025 and beyond, what he said at the end there. It was actually interesting. I talked with Sidney Johnson, the Mystics head coach, about this yesterday because he's got a very young team, and obviously his team is entering training camp. And Dan Quinn's team is not even starting with the offseason program yet. But I asked him, like, how much of your rotation do you know? And he's like, actually, I feel like I have a pretty good idea. We'll see. There's going to be a lot of competition, but there's certain players that I know I can rely on. And I feel like that's the right approach and exactly how they take it. Terry McLaurin is technically competing. Laramie Tunsil is technically competing. Jaden Daniels technically competing. But, like, we know what their roles are on this team. The whole thing falls apart if they're not available. Or you have to scramble, or however you want to look at it, if God forbid they're not available. But there's certainly, or if they're not good, like that's going to be an issue. They're Debo, they're certainly going to spend time designing stuff for him, having a vision for him. But there's going to be other guys, and especially young players, that you just haven't seen compete amongst other NFL peers yet, and you don't know what they can do and can't do in the league. You can have ideas, but the thing about saying those ideas out loud to the media is they're out there. You can't pull them back. And so it's better to just say, we'll see. And it's annoying because I would love to know what they're thinking, as all of you would as well, and then see if it works out. But it's just better for them internally and better for the player, better for the coaches if they let the experiments happen without talking about them very much. Because then if they fail, we don't make as big of a deal out of them, and we don't know that they failed. It's just a thing that we might not even have thought of never happens, and we don't know the difference. So I get not wanting to commit to stuff, but I'm sure internally they are hoping, hey, this guy's going to contribute here. But you find that out through competition, and that's the way they roll in that building.
Number 5.
Number 5 in our pick 6 at 6. We got 2 more from Lance Newmark, of course, the Commanders' assistant general manager, hosted his press conference on day 3 of the draft. Kind of did the wrap-up work for Adam Peters. He was asked how free agency factored into how they drafted in the later rounds. Here is what the Commanders' assistant general manager had to say on that.
I think the last couple of weeks we've really studied that hard and looked hard at that and had some conversations with some potential ads, So it definitely is something you think about. Hey, we might be able to add this player, in May, or so you certainly are always watching that board. We watch it every day, and we always circle back to guys and see where they're at, if they, where they're, because sometimes they don't want to do anything right now, but that's a constant. It's on the wall in my office, so I see it every morning when I walk in, and we talk about it on literally a daily basis.
So I think of a guy like Zadarius Smith. If I'm Zadarius Smith, I don't know how interested I am in an off-season program at this point in my career. Now, I think if you can get a guy that is interested, great. Or maybe he's not interested in phase 1. Maybe he's interested in getting in when they get on the field. Whatever. Or he doesn't want to go somewhere, sign, and then see a guy get drafted and then see like, oh, great, now I got to compete with some rookie. So he might look at a place like Washington and be like, I can go in and win a job there. I'm in. Wants to see what happens. Maybe he wants to wait till training camp. That would kind of suck because they do a lot of team building and stuff now, but that's also the NFL. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices for talent, and if the talent has the leverage, then you're at their mercy to the extent that you want to be. If you can also say like, hey man, that's not how we do business here. You either come in now or we're not interested, then he's got to make a decision. So you can play that game. But it is something that as you look at undrafted free agents and as you look at the free agents, veterans that are still available, could sway a 7th-round pick one way or the other. Maybe they like the running back free agent market less, and that's why they go with Krosky Merritt there in the 7th round versus someone else that they potentially could have taken, a Fadil Diggs, the defensive end out of Syracuse, who went a few picks later, I think, if I have my 7th-round picks right. Last but not least, in our pick 6 at 6.
Number 6.
We had one more question for Lance Newmark, and by we, I mean Adam Peters had one more question for Lance Newmark.
F. Adam Peters, Daily Planet.
Yeah.
Can you talk about why the quarterbacks made you this shirt and why they think you should be president in your platform, if you will?
Well, the quarterback room is a great room. Great men in there, and yep, that was a nice surprise from them. It's one of the great comebacks ever from that room.
You guys can dig in on that. Nice job, dude.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Nice for your boss to come into your press conference and be like, hey, nice job, dude. Wearing a shirt with your face on it. Anthony, do you have any other ways for folks that haven't seen this that you would describe this shirt? It's a distinctive style. I just can't think of like what the correct term is. It's like almost like a fan concert shirt, where like the artist's face is on it.
Yeah.
But the face is Lance Newmark.
Yeah, I mean, I think you did a good job describing it.
All right, thanks. Thanks for your support. I felt it.
Hey, look, anytime.
I do want the bigger story there, though. We're doing like an hour with Fortier on RFK tomorrow and other topics. I might lead with that. Be like, by the way, you've been doing a lot of great journalism. Did you figure out a Lance Newmark shirt yet? Or Adam Peters Lance Newmark shirt yet? And he says no, then I'm going to kick him out of my house because we're recording in my home studio.
How would you feel if I walked in here with your face on a shirt of mine?
I'd be like, why did my wife give you that?
Good point.
Because that's 100% where that would come from.
She's listening.
She loves a bit. I married the right woman, that's for sure. I'm a radio person who married someone that discovered upon marrying me, she loves bits. Loves them. That's the pick 6 here on the Team 980. When we get back, let's talk about some NBA basketball, including my least favorite NBA basketball player. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980. Right now, the Bucks up big, 26-12 in the first quarter. 6 o'clock tip in that game. Bucks fighting for their lives on the road at Indiana. I guess Pacers are at the free throw line because it's now 26-13. But Milwaukee start not.
Yeah, they're still going to lose, though.
Yeah, probably.
What is Giannis at right now?
It's a great question.
Or is it the others that's really...
You ask good questions, Anthony. The answers are one click away. Giannis, 7 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal in 8 minutes. He came out at the 8-minute mark, where the rest of the starters have played all 10 minutes. Who else is having a nice little night? Gary Trent Jr.'s got 6. AJ Green's got 6.
Yeah, they're going to need them. Shooting anyway.
Going to need the others. Pascal Siakam's 0 for 2 from the field. Not a great start for him. Tyrese Halliburton also doesn't have a point. So there you go.
Do you think he's a fraud?
No, I think Tyrese Halliburton's a really good basketball player.
I
think he's like a top 15 guy in the league.
Even though a lot of NBA players say he's the most overrated.
Look at the rest of that list, bro. Like, hey, how many times does he have to cook dudes for them to be like, no, that guy's actually good? I don't know why. I would want to know why other NBA dudes think he's not that good. I mean, defensively, clearly not his strong suit. But he's a really good shooter, excellent passer, probably really fun to play with because he moves the ball. They play so fast, and he's the head of that snake. And then, you know, he with his length and everything, like he's not a bad rebounder. So I don't know, man. Do you think he's overrated?
I think he's slightly overrated.
I think probably people are mad that he was on the Olympic team.
Well, that for sure. But I think also sometimes, like, when you look at his number, like, sometimes he does have, like, really great assists, but, like, a lot of it is, like, basic. And a lot of people don't like basic. They want to see you in and out, cross between, spin move, get in the air, throw behind the neck, you know, corner pass. That's what they want to see. They want to be entertained kind of thing, and he's not that.
He's a great get-ahead passer. Like, in a league that's built on, can we get easy threes? He gets guys easy threes all the time just by having his head on a swivel, catching the pass from the rebounder. Other guys have run ahead, and then he's like, where's the open one? Boom, down the sideline. Boom, cross court. Hit him in the pocket, in rhythm, bang, bang, 3.
Yeah,
like,
I think I just don't.
If I'm a coach, I'm thrilled with the way he gets his assists.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because the ball, that's the thing. The ball doesn't get sticky in Indiana. Like, they're real good at not playing iso ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe, like, if you want a good dude who's just going to win a one-on-one tournament, like, I don't know, Tyrese Halliburton's your guy.
He is not that guy.
No, like, he can do some things off the dribble, but he's not going to defend anybody, and he's certainly not a top 20 isolation player in the NBA. But he understands how to play he's a really good player for the modern game.
I mean, I like him. I do think he's a slightly overrated, but I respect his game.
Yeah, as do I. You know whose game I have no respect for?
Whose?
You know, Anthony.
I do.
Who is it, Anthony? Tell the world.
Jalen Brunson.
No, I mean, I don't like it. I have respect for Jalen Brunson's game. I don't enjoy it. That is the incorrect answer.
Okay.
We'll get to Jalen Brunson in a moment.
Draymond Green?
No, No, this guy thinks he's Draymond Green, and that's the problem. Anthony, who's my least favorite basketball player on the planet?
Dylan Brooks.
I cannot stand
Yeah.
Dylan Brooks. This absolute goober last night, just, you know the phrase tryhards, or like being a tryhard? The Houston Rockets last night, bunch of tryhards. They tried so hard to get Draymond Green's second technical foul. So blatantly obvious. They're pushing him. They're tripping, or, you know, didn't trip him, but like, you know, oh, Draymond might accidentally trip me, and let's see if I can get a reaction. Let me push Steph Curry over and see what happens if Draymond will come in, which is how Draymond got his first technical, which was ridiculous. Absolutely absurd officiating. Draymond, pure reputation tech there, because he was actually being responsible and protecting Steph, but also not in a way that escalated. He was being a peacemaker, and they gave him a technical foul anyway. Like, if I'm Draymond, I'm like, well, then I would have just punched Dylan Brooks in the chest. Might as well got my money's worth.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe not punch because then you get thrown out. But can I open hand slap him? Like, what do we got to do here? But the thing is with Dylan Brooks is like, yeah, there are guys in the league who are agitators. Draymond is an agitator. Draymond will bark at dudes. Draymond will try to get inside people's heads, whatever. But like, Draymond's also an unbelievable basketball player. His defense is outrageous. And I know he's lobbying for himself to win Defensive Player of the Year, which is off-putting, but he's also probably not wrong. He certainly, since they got Jimmy, and certainly in the playoffs so far, tell me a guy who's playing better defense. Maybe there's some guys out there that are playing as well, but at 6'7", his length, his rebounding ability, his ability to stay vertical without and challenge shots without fouling is insane. And the stuff it allows them to do, because he's also great on the perimeter from a switching standpoint, unlocks, what the peak Warriors used to be defensively and what this current version that is a Death Star with Jimmy Butler is. And, like, he has no business guarding Alperen Şengün. None. And he's been awesome. And Dylan Brooks thinks he's that, and then he gets cooked, and he runs his mouth, and then he incites other people. How many times are you, Dylan Brooks, going to incite the Warriors into kicking your ass? He did it how many times in Memphis where he awoke sleeping? Like, there were times where Steph was having off nights, and instead of just letting it happen, he had to say something dumb, and then off goes Steph. Off goes Clay. Off goes Draymond. Off go the Warriors. And last night, Jimmy Butler had a pretty rough first half. Scored, 2 points, I think, in the first half? Something like that? 4 points? 4 points. And then Dylan Brooks' dumbass is chirping at him at the free throw line and being a clown. And then Jimmy just absolutely rips the Rockets apart in the second half. And afterwards, when he was asked about it, he's like, I don't like that dude. There was no, like, Dylan Brooks was laughing at one point. Jimmy was not laughing. He's just a clown. And he's dangerous because he tries to push people over and trip people and do dumb stuff. He is my least favorite player, maybe in all of sports, for on-the-court conduct, on-the-field conduct. I cannot think of anybody else that possibly does or could annoy me more.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan Brooks brought it on themselves. Like you said, you awoke Jimmy Butler. Like, he wasn't doing anything. He was struggling. Defensively, he was locked in, but offensively, he wasn't doing anything. So the fact that you do that with Draymond on the bench, because he was in foul trouble. So I'm just like, the Rockets just had so many opportunities also just to win that game. The inefficient at the free throw line, the turnovers down the stretch.
They shot 61% from the line in a playoff game as NBA players. It's brutal. And that's the thing. It's so amateur. The antics combined with the free throw shooting, combined with all the stuff that they did, just is total amateur hour from the Houston Rockets compared to the Warriors, who handled, I think, most of those situations like pros, played like pros, and thus won the game because they're pros.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're looking at, like just a class organization going up against some youngins. That's the best way I can put it.
Maybe they'll be good eventually, but, I mean, also, their star, Jalen Green, not being on the floor late. Buddy.
He's struggled this entire series, though, turning the ball over, under 10 points in 3 to 4 games. Like, it hasn't been his series.
Like, in the battle last night of Jalen Green versus Brandon Podziemski, advantage Podziemski by a lot. My other least favorite player of the moment is definitely Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson has entered a rarefied air, and Brunson and the Knicks tip off at 7:30 tonight, trying to close out the Pistons, that game in New York. The Pistons lost both of their games in Detroit. They are on a 9-game home playoff losing streak, which is tied for the longest streak in league history. Brunson has entered the rare air, Anthony, of Houston-era, maybe it's the Rockets, Houston-era James Harden, as purely from a basketball sense, one of my least favorite players to watch ever. The flopping and the flailing and the constant trying to draw fouls. He's awesome, as was Harden. Like, these are two elite players, like some of the 10 best in the world. Quit jumping into everyone And if I'm less mad at Brunson and was less mad at Harden than I am at the world that exists that allows them to get away with this stuff. There just has to be a better job officiating it. And I don't think you can change it in the middle of a playoff series because that feels wrong. But in the offseason, the league needs to look at this and be like, hey, moving forward, if you Jalen Brunson, you're not going to be rewarded for it. You have to score buckets on your own merit. We are not giving you free trips to the free throw line because you flail your body into people and you throw your body. Because by the letter of the law, that shouldn't be a foul. Like, a foul, by definition, is illegal contact that creates an advantage for one of the sides. If the offensive player throws themselves into a legally guarding defensive player, the advantage created by the defense wasn't created for the defense, wasn't by the defense. That's Brunson being a dum-dum by putting himself at a disadvantage, and he gets rewarded for the foul call. Like, credit to him for manipulating the system. This is not a shot at Jalen Brunson, other than the aesthetics are awful. But he doesn't care about that. He wants to win games. And that dude is really good at winning games. He hits tough shot, clutch shot after tough shot and clutch shot. But it's just, this can't be the way the NBA wants basketball to be played. And it's not the way the game was designed to be played. And people that manipulate the rule book should not be rewarded. That is my ultimate take here, Anthony.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it this playoffs, and I promise you, next year or the year after, it's going to come to a halt because that's what happened to James Harden. He stopped getting the calls. They started calling offensive fouls on James Harden, and at some point, they're going to stop mistaking, Jalen Brunson's craftiness for him just, foul baiting.
Those damn lefties.
Yep.
Why is it always the lefties? It's always the crafty lefties.
I don't know. They're different.
Can't jump over a phone book, but certainly seem to be able to levitate to the free throw line. Knicks and Pistons tonight, 7:30. 8:30 for Magic and Celtics. Clippers, Nuggets. That is your Craig will DVR it and watch it at 7 a.m. tomorrow game because that's literally what I did with the Warriors game this morning. Warriors game with my morning coffee.
That's not too bad.
No. It's not a bad way to go about it. Better than me trying to stay up till 1 in the morning because we all know I ain't doing that. All right, when we get back, we wrap things up with real things, real people said into real microphones here on the Team 980. Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980. Something special for you tomorrow. 40A and I have taken quite the liking to the long-form content. So tomorrow, Sam is going to come over to the home studio, a.k.a. my house. And we're going to sit down for about an hour and talk through this entire RFK thing. Sam has been studying it, or reporting on it, I should say, looking at it, all the different angles for the entirety of his time on the beat. And he really enjoys covering that story along with his colleagues at the Post, including Megan Flynn, who's one of their DC Metro reporters. And Sam is super locked into the details of everything and kind of where this goes. And he's also obviously got intimate knowledge of the football side of it. So 40A and I are going to talk through all of that tomorrow. And we're probably going to wind up airing that in 2 parts because we're going to tape that. And so the full thing will be available uninterrupted ultimately on our YouTube pages at the Team 980 and at Craig Hoffman. But part 1 on the radio tomorrow afternoon. Anything else that we got slated for tomorrow, Anthony?
Biggest winners and losers.
Oh, biggest winners and losers of the NFL draft. So we'll get to those tomorrow. Also, short show because the Capitals play tomorrow night, which is giving us the great privilege of Nationals baseball. So Nats, Phillies, 6:15 Nats on deck tomorrow, 6:45 first pitch with Charlie and Dave. Any more housekeeping, Anthony?
No.
All right, then. It's time for Real Things.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5-11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All right, let's start in the pop culture world. Let's start with Glorilla, who's a rapper, if you don't know. Talking on FaceTime with Rihanna about Rihanna's beauty brand, Fenty Beauty. Now, everyone should know that Glorilla is from Memphis, and she has a very unique accent, which is why Rihanna wanted her to say this.
How you would say my brand name?
I tried not to say Birdie because I knew that's what you were trying to get me to say. Fancy Birdie and Savage X Fancy.
That's Fenty Beauty, or as she says,
how you would say my brand name?
I tried not to say Birdie because I knew that's what you were trying to get me to say.
Amazing. I love that she has such a great attitude about it. She's like, I know that I do not say these words in the way that other people say these words, and it causes people to smile, and I am here to make people smile, especially when it's Rihanna.
Yeah, birdiful.
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 Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets, they won game 4 of their series against the Clippers on the first ever walk-off dunk in NBA playoff history. Aaron Gordon had it. It was a putback on a missed Nikola Jokic shot. So what did Jokic think when he put the ball in the air?
Nikola, what was going through your mind when you let that shot go at the end?
This is going to be bad.
He's a man of few words, Anthony. But those words are impactful.
I'm still not even over, that game winner. Because I couldn't believe it.
That series has been
a walk-off
ridiculous.
dunk.
Ridiculous. I love it's so funny.
And
Nikola, what was going through your mind
to lose like
when
that?
you let that shot go at the end?
This is going to be bad.
Turns out, Nikola, it was good. Down 20, come back. Yeah, I turned that game off for a little bit, and I was like, oh, good, we're back. We're back. Jason Benetti is a national treasure. You might know Benetti from calling games nationally for Fox basketball, and he also does some NFL stuff for Fox, and he is also the play-by-play voice of the Detroit Tigers on television. And this happened on the Tigers broadcast yesterday.
Are you the Mortal Kombat guy? Scorpion wins. Carry, finish him. 3-2. That's a high fly ball deep to left field. Altuve back at the track and the wall, and that is way up and out of here. Kerry Carpenter does finish him. 2-0 Tigers. That ball was blasted.
It's so good. I've known Jason since I was in college. That dude is hilarious. Also one of the smartest, like quickest, wittiest people. Never don't be on your toes if you're fortunate enough to be around Jason Benetti, because you will get got.
He has a great voice too.
He does. Oh my God. Just.
If you had to rank people's voices, like Noah, great voice. Jason Benetti, great voice.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on some others, but I know those two people have really great.
Like he's got a distinct, like there is a certain family of voices, and like Jason and Kevin Brown, who also worked with Jason for a long time for the Syracuse Chiefs and is a good friend. Like Kevin's kind of in this tree. They're in the Sean McDonough tree of voices.
Okay.
There's a similar intonation to those men, and they're all exceptional, and also happen to be, I would say, Brown, McDonough, Benetti, three of the funniest, wittiest, they all have the same sense of humor. Must be a voice thing. All right, that's our show. More voice breakdowns tomorrow.